So I want to start by asking you, Stefan, what is POC?
POC is a business based on a strong mission saying that we're to do the best we can to possibly save lives and reduce the consequences of accidents for gravity sports athletes and cyclists. What does it actually mean then? Well, basically up till now it's been pretty much about developing adequate and accurate protection when pursuing these different activities. But what we do look at right now is basically expanding and holistically promoting our mission in a wider context, which is basically looking at proactive and post-active solutions to support the idea of people not getting killed or reducing the consequences of those accidents.
And how did you get started in that? Why did you get into that?
Well, it's a long story. I've been working in communication, branding, product development, and so forth my whole life. And I got to the point, developing furniture for IKEA, glassware, and ceramics for Arabia and Itala, and in different products with Absolute Vodka, promoting the idea of drinking more liquor. And I got to the point where I realized that I'm not really contributing to, a sustainable future. And I was desperately looking for something that could actually make a difference. And myself, having had a background in ski racing when I was a kid, bringing my kids to the slope and back in that scene again, you get a little worried, watching your kids and their friends training giant slalom at 70 Ks, passing by trees that large. And in a situation where, back then, only kids and downhill racers were using helmets, but at the same time, a potential market of skiers around the world actually starting to use helmet, generally, and that actually kicked in. This is happening now. So it was a business opportunity supporting the humanistic dimension of doing better and potentially making a difference for someone at some point. And in a category that I love, which is ski racing and eventually cycling, which is something that I truly love as well.
So Irian, Audi has a long history of being very dedicated to design, obviously in the cars, but also supporting festivals and being part of Design Miami and stuff like that. Can you tell us a little bit about the dedication to design and how that got started?
I think generally design is so closely connected to Audi, and especially for our customers. Design is the first thing you as an Audi customer choose. It's the most important ratio why you're choosing an Audi. And we see also our customers are very much into design generally, giving a lot of attention to details. And as a premium brand, we also do give very much focus and attention to design.
So how do you work with design specifically in Sweden, where you're heading it up?
We do different kind of collaborations with brands from. Throughout the years, we had a lot of cooperations. For instance, in our showroom here at Norrmalmstorg, Audi showroom, where we had a design boost and a lot of talks with different people from all over the design world. Like Tom Dixon was actually now the forum talking about design. So, and then we invite customers also to take part of it.
You've had the tagline "Vorsprung durch Technik" for a long time. That's obviously a very engineer-driven company. How do you practically kind of live that slogan? Is there a culture internally or a process that you guys try to implement, even not in designing the cars, but in sort of how you go about doing business?
I think Vorsprung durch Technik is really the brand core and what gives all the technicians the reason why are we here. But it's also when all the things we do, we also look at the Vorsprung, which is the progressive part of it. Audi should be a modern brand, innovative brand, and that's where we look to the Vorsprung part, to be ahead in different areas. And then we go into collaborations, as you say, with Art Basel and Design Miami.
So, Stefan, you guys have I know you two have collaborated in the past, but you've also worked with other automakers and POC. Can you tell us a little bit about how those collaborations come about?
Well, I think that everyone is really ambitious in trying to figure out what's going to happen here. Myself, I don't think that there's going to be a single combustion engine in any city in 10 years from now. So what does that actually mean? Well, we need to look at other means of fuel or energy, which is, the cars is of course not disappear. But I think that with that, in terms of other aspects of life in general, where environmental perspectives, the idea of well-being and so forth, is transforming the matters of transportation in cities. Anything from people around the world, choosing their bike to go to work, or in China, for instance, where everyone is on their moped, and 99.9% of all of those mopeds these days, they're all electrical engines. Very interesting. We have situations in countries that we normally blame for not being, supportive in terms of environmental topics, like China again, where they're building new cities where they're excluding cars, for instance. So we're in a big change in that perspective. And of course, the car industry cannot at any, by no means lose the initiative in terms of supplying transport to people. So they're trying fiercely to come up with solutions, of course. But right now, I think the biggest challenge in a number of cities around the world is the challenge of sharing the space between motorists and cyclists, for instance, which is a big hazard in terms of safety and stuff like that. But again, as Audi and anybody else in the car industry, realizing that they need to invite cyclists and other means of transportation into their landscape, and instead of trying to push them away, trying to integrate the perspectives of how you share roads and how interaction and technology might support that perspective, and increase the level of understanding between these different players in the street, which is a bit of a hazard these days. And one day I'm in my car and I hate the cyclists around me because they don't, they're totally nuts. And the next day I'm on my bike and I feel the same thing about the motorists and the car drivers. So there are a lot of really interesting projects going on in terms of supporting interaction between these different vessels and drivers and riders and so forth.
Because you've built a helmet that communicates with the car, kind of telling watch out, right?
Yeah, I mean there are a number of we have a number of projects but basically what modern technology does is that let's choose another situation. Let's a simple thing that you'll see in every car in a few years without giving away any secrets. The most common injury between, or the most common accident between drivers and riders in the street is basically someone in a car parking the car, open the door, and the cyclist run into the door. So that is like 6.7% of all accidents relating to that specific situation. The scary thing is that 28% of the most severe injuries are due to exact the same situation. So more than 25%, more than 1/4 of all of these accidents are due to that specific situation. All modern cars have a camera in the rear mirror these days. That rear mirror together with the software will be able very easily to identify an approaching cyclist. So when the car driver parks his car, the car just locks itself, so you can't open the car, and you can avoid those situations. That's one example from another 100 examples which will come alive in the next years.
You have the project in Massachusetts, in Somerville, outside of Boston, about self-parking cars that save lots of parking space. Is that actually happening now, the project? That's an Audi project, right?
Yeah, it's a project where Audi has signed an agreement with the city of Boston, who's developing an area which is called Somerville, where they are looking into the possibility to integrate self-driving cars. And the reason why is because if you have a self-driving car and self-parking car, you can actually park, or you can make parking houses which are much more, taking less space in account, about 60%. So this means that you actually can have much more space for, as you said, us going around the streets, having a nice place to be. And also it makes it possible that you actually can leave the car and then go into the city and maybe use another mean of transportation. So it's very it's a very interesting project. And of course it has some years to go until it's realized, but already next year we're launching a car who actually is self-driving for up to 60 kilometers an hour. Yeah.
How do you look at the role of a car manufacturer in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
I think there still will be needs for cars. Even though we have dense cities, there are always areas where you need to go, where you can't have the regular communication means. But of course, for a car brand, we need to see where is the world going, and we need to adapt our services, for instances. And then we have here in Sweden something called Audi Unite, where you can go together 5 persons and share a car to make it quite easy. And there are also projects all around the world where you go and check how can, for instance, like in Somerville, how can you make use of all the cars that are parked during the day? Can we arrange that they can be used for other purposes by other people, etc.? And these projects is, of course, something that you can develop and adapt to the urbanization. So, of course, I think the whole car industry is looking for electrification, digitalization, and connectivity. These are, I think, the buzzwords of
So obviously this is the Scandinavian Design Week, if you will. Stefan, you've been obviously in that field for a really long time. Can you talk a little bit about sort of Scandinavian design, what it means to you, and kind of if you've seen it progress? And
speaking about Swedish design in general, I'd say that look at what marvelous journey there's been this past 30 years. Again, nothing really happened. Then there was this boost in the early 90s, and we have hundreds of designers around the world in different fields being successful in their businesses and in their industries, with Swedish companies or international companies and Swedish industries succeeding, using a much more sophisticated perspective on what design brings to their products and services. So I think that the boom is, looking back, it should be interesting what the history books will tell in a few years from now, what happened between 1990 and today. It's been a wonderful journey.
Do you think, I mean, obviously in the early 90s, when you were really active, there was a lot of things happened, a lot of young designers came out and kind of started the boom, or at least it seemed that way. Do you think that there were any kind of special events or people that made it happen? I know Eero Koivisto always talks about Jasper Morrison being the best Scandinavian designer because he kind of looked from the outside in and gave us the self-confidence to sort of look at our way of designing things. Which I don't know if you agree with that, but
absolutely, I think that Jasper Morrison basically gave us the self-confidence to try even harder, because he showed that what he stood for and what he still stands for got to be a bit of a door opener to the rest of the Swedish bunch at the time, supporting simplicity, longevity, durability, common sense in general, and a number of other criteria that you may associate to Swedish or Scandinavian design. So with that said, this happens together with a new generation of at the time young Swedish designers with a will to share and to explore and go international, just like a number of other industries at the time. Supported by, I would say, people like Claes and Kristina Britton from Stockholm New and so forth. So there were a lot, and the Swedish contemporary fashion at the time as well. So that force really made this journey forward kickstart in a way.
So Audi obviously is a German company. Is there a strong design philosophy that you can trace back to a movement or a Bauhaus or a sort of a way of designing that you guys live by at Audi?
Of course, the German Bauhaus era is, I think, influencing most brands from Germany in one or another way. Design is really, really important, of course, for the brand, and sometimes looking back at the historic times where the early 30s racing cars were giving inspiration, I think, for the face of Audi.
Can you talk a little bit about sort of the need for a physical space in a digital era for Audi?
We're giving still very much attention to the local dealer and the way they look and that they are actually performing the brand values. So there are still a lot of investments in the the dealerships. And but what's happening is that also the dealerships are becoming more and more digital. This is a development that we're seeing. The car brands or the car models that we have are becoming so many, and it will be impossible for the dealer to have them in the dealerships.
How about you, Stefan? You've obviously done a lot of strategy work for brands in the past and built experiences. What is your kind of retail strategy and experience design for your brand?
Well, I would speak for all brands in that sense, the way I believe it's going to be, which is basically a retailer is a retailer is a retailer. It doesn't matter whether you're online or offline, whatever. The best online retailers probably need to establish something like this because there are different ways of shopping and there are different needs that you need to support depending on, behavior of your customer, and you need to be available when that need occurs somehow. The best physical retailers, they need to become just as good in online retail as they are offline to survive. So looking at the landscape and the space of competition these days between physical retail and online, maybe half will survive, but those that will survive, they will do both and they'll be damn good at what they're doing.
The design that we did grow up with is quite, it was built for a very homogenous population, sort of white Christian people. Do you think with, the world being more global and people coming here and we going abroad, do you think that the idea of what functionality and beauty means will change? Do you think Scandinavian design or whatever we end up calling it will look different based on a different...
Thank God we have matured a bit because I think there's a huge chunk of Swedish design and design attitude that I personally hate. And that's the moralizing aspect of design, saying that that's good design and that's bad design. It worked, until 1952 maybe, when we standardized everything from, heights of kitchen benches and whatever it might be, just to avoid that people, were injured or anything that would be, supporting a general average good life. Then you may speak about good design. You can still speak about good design in terms of anything which is not hazardous to environment or humanistic values, democracy or whatever. But beyond that, forget it. I mean, design is good or bad is subjective. There are tons of great stuff out there being loved and deliberately designed and engineered for a specific user group that I personally hate, but they love it, and therefore it's good design to them, which is fine. I can't, hover above telling people what's good and bad. People love what they love. Just accept it.
Yeah, I think we have about the same idea about it, and what I would think probably will happen, or what we can see happening, is it's becoming much more diverse.
Anything in 2016 that you're really excited about, design-wise or otherwise, or products that are coming out? Anything that you want to sort of plug?
No, what I think is very interesting and challenging also for future it's not products of something. It's the way of how do we do things much more sustainable. All the thing, looking at, you were talking about technology and the fast-moving development in all areas, and there will happen a lot of stuff very fast.
How about you, Stefan? Anything in 2016 you're excited about?
If I would cross my fingers, just because I'm extremely curious. I mean, it's Apple hiring all of these car designers from the car industry at the same time building the largest solar panel park in the world. I dream about these guys coming out with a car, whether it's going to be this year or next year, I don't know, or if it's even happening. This, just might just be rumors or gossip, but that'd be interesting, just to stir around in the pot a bit and open up for a new player. I don't know if you talk about this in the car industry, but it seems like there's something going on there. We'll see.
Well, with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for coming, and thank you for coming on a Friday night in the middle of the snowstorm. Would love it if you pick out a book as a small gift. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.